Looking forward to today. The hour of convening has arrived. All senators, please come to order. This time I'd like to ask all unauthorized persons to exit the chamber. And once again, it is my distinct honor to recognize our good friend, our well-dressed, our well-spoken senator from Chickamauga.
Mr. President, thank you very much, or as Elvis would say, thank you very much. It is a great day at our state capitol, and the men and women here in the Senate are ready to go to work. And I also see that Georgia's Army National Guard folks are here today. We thank them for their service, and also we thank the men and women here in our Senate that serve too, from Marietta, Lithonia, Reedsville, Columbus, Cobb County, Cartersville, and many other places. The journal's been read and found to be correct, Mr. President.
I'm glad you highlighted that. It is an honor to look up in this gallery and around this chamber and see so many members of our armed services, and thank you all so much for your service, and thank you for being here with us today. Is there objection to dispensing with the reading of the journal? Hearing none, the reading of the journal is dispensed with. Are there any motions to reconsider? Is there objection to the confirmation of the journal? The chair hears none, and the journal is confirmed. All senators who have bills and resolutions, please bring them forward to the Secretary's desk at this time. Mr. Secretary, first reading and reference of Senate bills and resolutions, please.
Senate Bill 267 by Senator Jackson II and others. Bill will be titled Enactment Title 31 of the OCGA relating to health, so as to repeal in its entirety Chapter 26 relating to
Health and Human Services.
Senate Bill 268 by Senator Jackson II and others. Bill will be titled Enactment Chapter 17 Title 45 of the OCGA relating to notaries public, so as to provide
Veterans.
Senate Bill 269 by Senator Payne of the 54th and others. The bill will be titled Enactment Article 2, Chapter 1 of Title 42 of the OCGA relating to sexual offender registration review.
Judiciary.
Board. Senate Bill 270 by Senator Kennedy of the 18th and others. The bill will be titled Enactment Part 6 of Article 8 of Chapter 2 of Title 47 of the OCGA relating to judges of the Supreme Court, judges of the Court of Appeals, and their employees.
Retirement.
Senate Bill 271 by Senator Kennedy of the 18th and others. Bill will be titled Enactment Title 15 of the OCGA relating to courts and Code Section 47.263 of the OCGA relating to credit for certain past service as an assistant district.
Retirement.
Senate Bill 272 by Senator Robertson of the 29th. The bill will be titled Enactment Part 1 of Article 2 of Chapter 13 Title 16 of the OCGA relating to schedules, offenses, and penalties regarding the regulation.
Health and Human Services.
Senate Resolution 459 by Senator Moulds of the 53rd and others. A resolution requesting that all persons testifying before the Senate tell the truth, providing for bans on persons found to have lied to the Senate from providing future testimony to the Senate and for other purposes.
Ethics.
Senate Resolution 460 by Senator Wilkinson of the 50th and others, a resolution creating the Senate Agriculture, Forestry, and Landscape Workforce Study Access Study Committee.
Rules.
Senate Resolution 464 by Senator Martin of the 9th, a resolution creating the Senate Higher Education Outcome Study Committee for other purposes.
Rules.
Senate Resolution 465 by Senator Miller of the 49th and others, a resolution adopting the rules of the Senate for other purposes.
Rules.
Senate Resolution 466 by Senator Harbison of the 15th and others, a resolution committing the 75th anniversary of the World War II Merrill's Marauders mission and urging the United States Congress to award the Congressional Gold Medal.
Rules.
Senate Resolution 468 by Senator Davenport of the 44th and others, a resolution creating the Senate Study Committee on the Educational Development on African American Children in Georgia for other purposes.
Rules.
Senate Resolution 470 by Senator Moulds of the 53rd, resolution creating the Senate Study Committee on Music, Workforce Development, and for other purposes.
Rules.
Senate Resolution 477 by Senator James of the 35th, a resolution honoring the lives of Dr. Eugene Edgar Thomas, Mr. Elmo James Jr., and dedicating an intersection in their memory and for other purposes.
Transportation.
Senate Resolution 479 by Senator Gooch of the 51st, a resolution creating the Senate evaluating e-scooters and other innovative mobility options for Georgia Study Committee and for other purposes.
Rules.
Senate Resolution 481 by Senator Miller of the 49th and others, a resolution encouraging local educational agencies to support Georgia's talented and gifted students by complying with all.
Education and Youth.
Senate Resolution 483 by Senator Robertson of the 29th, a resolution creating the Senate Study Committee on Georgia County Boards of Elections and Registration for other purposes. Senate Resolution 485 by Senator Williams of the 39th and others, a resolution creating the Senate Redistricting and Reapportionment Study Committee for other purposes.
Rules.
Mr. President, that concludes the order.
Mr. Secretary, first reading and reference of House bills and resolutions.
House Bill 534 by Representative Poland of the 131st, a bill we titled an act to authorize the assessment and collection of a
State and local government.
House Bill 623 by Representative Poland of the 131st, a bill we titled an act to create
State and local government.
House Bill 642 by Representative Poland of the 131st, a bill we titled an act to provide a new charter for the city of Zebulon, Georgia.
State and local government.
House Bill 644 by Representative Hitch of the 161st and others, a bill we titled an act to amend an act to provide a new charter for the city of
State and local government.
House Bill 645 by Representative Wilson of the 80th and others, a bill we titled an act to amend
State and local government.
House Bill 646 by Representative Belton of the 112th and others, a bill be titled enactment and act to
State and
incorporate.
local government.
House Bill 647 by Representative Wilson of the 80th and others, a bill be titled enactment and act to incorporate the city of Brookhaven, DeKalb
State and
County.
local government.
House Bill 648 by Representative Coggins of the 14th, a bill be titled enacted by a new charter of the city of White to provide
State and local government.
House Bill 649 by Representative Dubnick of the 29th and others, a bill be titled an act to
State
authorize.
and local government.
House Bill 651 by Representative Dubnick of the 29th and others, a bill be titled an act to amend an act creating Gainesville
State and
redevelopment.
local government.
House Bill 653 by Representative Williams of the 168th and others, a bill be titled an act to repeal an act creating the joint Liberty
State and
County.
local government.
House Bill 654 by Representative Glanton of the 75th and others, a bill be titled an act to amend
State
an
and
act.
local government.
House Bill 655 by Representative Scoggins of the 14th and others, a bill be titled an act to provide a new homestead exemption from
State and local government.
House Bill 656 by Reverend Jackson of the 64th and others, a bill be titled an act to amend an act, create a board of elections.
State and local government.
House Bill 657 by Reverend Stevens of the 164th and others, a bill be titled an
State
act.
and local government.
House Bill 661 by Reverend Martin of the 96th and others, a bill be
State and
titled.
local government.
House Bill 668 by Reverend Perez of the 142nd and others, a bill be titled an act to authorize the governing authority of Macon Bibb County.
State and local government.
Mr. President, that concludes the order.
Secretary will now be reports of standing committees.
Mr. President, State Committee on Judiciary has had our consideration of final legislation instructing board send back to Senate for recommendation. House Bill 424 do pass by substitute. House Bill 470 do pass by substitute. House Bill 543 do pass by substitute. House Bill 381 do pass by substitute. Semi-Senator Stone of the 23rd. Mr. President, Senate Committee on Regulated Industries and Utilities has had our consideration of final legislation instructing board send back to Senate for recommendation. House Bill 23 do pass by substitute. House Bill 76 do pass by substitute. House Bill 324 do pass by substitute. Semi-Senator Cowser of the 46th. Mr. President, Senate Committee on Higher Education has had our consideration following legislation instructing the board send back to Senate for recommendation. House Bill 218 do pass. House Bill 444 do pass by substitute. Semi-Senator Tibbins of the 37th. Mr. President, Mr. Secretary, pursuant to Senate Rule 2-1.6, I hereby give notice that I will introduce a minority report to be read along with the majority report of House Bill 444. Semi-Senator Harold of the 40th. Mr. President, Senate Committee on Regulated Industries and Utilities has had our consideration following legislation instructing board send back to the Senate for recommendation. House Bill 499 do pass by substitute. Semi-Senator Cowser to the 46th. Mr. President, Senate Committee on Finance has had our consideration following legislation instructing board send back to the Senate for recommendation. House Bill 352 do pass by substitute. Semi-Senator Hufstetler 52nd. Mr. President, Senate Committee on Rules has had our consideration following legislation instructing board back to the same for recommendation. Senate Resolution 114 do pass. Senate Resolution 333 do pass by substitute. Senate Resolution 452 do pass. Senate Resolution 455 do pass. Semi-Senator Moles the 53rd. Mr. President, Senate Committee on Rules has had our consideration of following legislation instructing board send back to Senate for recommendation. Pursuant to Senate Rule 2-1.10C, the Committee on Rules recommends the following legislation do pass by substitute. Senate Resolution 202 do pass by substitute. Semi-Senator Moles the 53rd. Mr. President, Senate Committee on Transportation has had our consideration following legislation instructing board send back to Senate for recommendation. House Resolution 37 do pass. House Resolution 346 do pass by substitute. Semi-Senator Beach of the 21st. And Mr. President, Senate Committee on State and Local Government Operations has had our consideration of all legislation to send back to Senate for recommendation. Senate Bill 256 do pass. Senate Bill 263 do pass. House Bill 607 do pass. House Bill 612 do pass. House Bill 613 do pass. House Bill 614 do pass. House Bill 619 do pass. House Bill 622 do pass. House Bill 625 do pass. House Bill 626 do pass. Semi-Senator Kirk of the 13th. That concludes the order.
Secretary will now read bills and resolutions for the second time.
Senate Resolution 114 by Senator Ligon III and others. United States Congress passed funding legislation to secure southern border urge. Senate Resolution 333 by Senator Martin of the 9th and others. March 1st movement recognize the 100th anniversary. Senate Resolution 452 by Senator Jones of the 10th and others. Senate Study Committee on the Financial Efficiency Star Rating create. Senate Resolution 455 by Senator C of the 34th. Senate Study Committee on Adult Changing Stations and Commercial Public Facilities create. House Bill 23 by Representative House on the 170th and others. Public Utilities and Public Transportation Electric Membership Corporations and their affiliates to provide broadband services specifically authorized. House Bill 76 by Representative Stevens, 164th, and others. Alcoholic beverages. Counties and municipalities may regulate alcohol licenses to certain distances in a manner that is less but not more restricted than those distances specified by the state provisions. House Bill 218 by Representative Williams of the 145th and others. Education eligibility requirements to receive the Hope Scholarship as a Zell Miller Scholarship Scholar. Provide. House Bill 324 by Representative Gravely of the 67th and others. Georgia's Hope Act and House Bill 352 by Representative Reeves of the 34th and others. Sales and use tax exemption for competitive projects of regional significance. Change sunset provisions. House Bill 381 by Representative Estration of the 104th and others. Child support. Defined terms and terminology, grammar and punctuation revised and correct. House Bill 424 by Representative Silcox the 52nd and others. Crimes and offenses include certain sex crimes into the definition of criminal gang activity. House Bill 444 by Representative Reeves of the 34th and others, Dual Enrollment Act and Act. House Bill 470 by Representative Saines of the 180th and others, Law Enforcement Officers and Agencies Analysis and Collection of DNA for individuals charged with a felony offense but sentenced as a first offender or under conditional discharge to provide. House Bill 499 by Representative Kelly of the 16th and others, Public Utilities and Public Transportation. Use of electric easements for broadband services permit. House Bill 543 by Representative Administration under 4th and others. Domestic Relations, Equitable Caregivers provide. House Resolution 37 by Representative Taylor of the 9th and others. Georgia Commission on Freight and Logistics create. House Resolution 346 by Representative Tankersley of the 160th and others. Georgia Southern Nursing Angels Memorial Bridge, Bryan County, dedicate. Mr. President, that concludes the order.
It is now time for our morning roll call. Are there any motions to excuse? Any motions to excuse? Chair recognizes the senator from the 35th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent for, what's this number? For the senator from the 33rd. He's in a committee.
He's normally looking for,
Yeah.
That's right, you're just
Right.
returning the favor. Well done.
Thank you.
Without objection, the senator from the 33rd is excused. Chair recognizes the senator from the 41st.
Mr. President, I move to excuse Senator from the 26th for business outside the Capitol.
Without objection, the senator from the 26th is excused. Chair recognizes our good friend from Columbus.
Mr. President, I rise seeking unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 13th for business outside of the Capitol and the senator from the 28th for business inside the Capitol.
Without objection, the senators from the 13th and the 28th are excused. Chair recognizes the senator from the 20th. He waves. You found your senator. Chair recognizes the senator from the 38th.
Thank you, Mr. President. It has already been asked to excuse by the senator from the 35th to excuse the senator from the 33rd, but since I was asked, I'm going to ask anyway.
You can ask twice.
I will ask again.
Without
Thank
objection,
you.
the senator from the 33rd is excused again. Chair recognizes the senator from the 7th.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 9th for business inside the Capitol.
9th.
9th.
Without objection, the senator from the 9th is excused. Are there any additional motions to excuse? Secretary will call the roll of senators. Signify your presence by voting the A switch. The secretary will unlock the machine. It's now time for a morning devotional. It is now time for a morning devotional. I'd like to ask that all senators please take your seats and cease all audible conversations. All senators, please take your seats. Doorkeepers, please secure the doors. I'd like to call upon the senator from the 14th to lead us in our pledge and to introduce our chaplain of the day.
Thank you, Mr. President. If you'll join me in honoring our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of And now our Georgia flag. It is always an honor to be up here and be able to introduce the chaplain of the day. Today is I'm especially honored to be able to not only have National Guard Day, have our general standing over here with his colleagues, but to also introduce our pastor of the day, Major Peak. Major Peak has an interesting background. He was commissioned in 2008, and then if you look through his bio, you see not only did he serve, but he was an athlete and participated, it appears, in the Olympics. If you look down below all of his accolades, the thing that stands out the most is this, and that's what's dear to many of our hearts. Dad and mom, over 55 years, married. 10 brothers and sisters. 44 nieces and nephews. You see, ladies and gentlemen, there are a lot of things that we accomplish, but in today's world, when we look at someone and their family is first and foremost, that says a whole lot about their character. Major Kevin Peak is not only a chaplain today, he's a proud and involved citizen of the state of Georgia. He served active duty for the U.S. Army in Iraq and Afghanistan between 2008 and 2011, and for the Georgia Army National Guard between 2017 and 18 in Romania and Republic of Georgia. He was formed by a large family of 10 brothers and sisters, as we talked about already, 44 nieces and nephews, and again, loving parents who's been married for 55 years. He's given back to the community through his military service and ministry across the state. He's been the campus minister for Blessed Trinity High School, the police chaplain in Roswell, and minister with the Department of Corrections. His greatest joys, again, family and friends. Ladies and gentlemen, if we please welcome Major Peak to our podium as he brings the chaplain of the day.
Within the Christian tradition, there exists a differentiation between liturgical and non-liturgical churches, particularly those that use a lectionary or an assigned text of Scripture for every day, and those that rely on the minister to choose a passage of Scripture to be applied. I'm of a liturgical tradition, and therefore I implore your consideration as I read the passage pre-selected for today. A reading from the prophet Jeremiah, chapter 7, verses 23 through 28. Thus says the Lord, this is what I commanded my people, listen to my voice. Then I will be your God, and you shall be my people. Walk in all the ways that I command you, so that you may prosper. But they obeyed not, nor did they pay heed. They walked in the hardness of their evil hearts and turned their backs, not their faces, to me. From the day that your fathers left the land of Egypt, even to this day, I have sent you untiringly all my servants the prophets. Yet they have not obeyed me, nor paid heed. They have stiffened their necks and done worse than their fathers. When you speak all these words to them, they will not listen to you either. When you call to them, they will not answer you. Say to them, this is the nation that does not listen to the voice of the Lord its God or take correction. Faithfulness has disappeared. The word itself is banished from their speech. The word of the Lord. Every major religion in the world has commandments, and that is teachings of God that regard belief and behavior and are set forth for the fulfillment of the individual and of all humanity. But we only have to command that which does not come easily or naturally. We do not have to command kids to play games or eat their favorite junk food. We do have to command kids to clean their rooms, do their homework, and eat their vegetables. Like a good parent calling a child to behaviors which fulfill and complete them while knowing that the child really doesn't want to do them. God, through the prophet Jeremiah, commands us, listen to my voice. Then I will be your God, and you will be my people. This is fundamental to all religion, a call to conversion, a call to surrender our own thoughts, desires, and opinions, to be brought into conformity with the wisdom and vision of an all-knowing God in order to discover the path to our true fulfillment and happiness, personally and communally. Yet too often we find that many individuals reject the idea of a loving God who made us, knows us, and truly wants what is best for us. Instead, they create and follow a God of their own making, who conforms himself to their own determination of a vision and a path for life. Rather than seek the guidance of an eternal God, they invoke a created God's mandate and proclaim their path as righteous and good, whether it is or not. Others have dispensed with this exercise altogether and have simply said, God is dead or has no place in our public lives. This may seem a clever out, yet as seen in the laws of science and mathematics, any attempts to reject or restrict the influence of a divine or universal truth in any area of our lives does not diminish its impact. The truth will out, and nature bats last. We do well as leaders to reflect upon the words of Miss Sanders, my Lakeside High School physics teacher, borrowed from others. Here in this assembly, we stand on the shoulders of giants. Whether we recognize that giant to be God or simply the universal wisdom of the ages written upon our hearts and revealed throughout history. Our laws are based upon philosophical foundations that reach back to the Greeks and Romans themselves, who knew that civilizations are built upon eternal values and virtues that fulfill and perfect us as individuals and communities. The intellectual, spiritual, and political equivalent of eating our veggies and doing our homework. To legislate in opposition to these principles, while immensely popular to those who would rather satisfy their baser appetites by eating junk food and playing games, is ultimately self-destructive to our humanity and that of future generations, as the Roman Senate and people learned when they prioritized bread and circuses over virtues and values. Continue to take time then to listen to God's voice and that of the universal wisdom of the ages. May it inform you in truth of your humanity and guide you to legislate so as to aid us as citizens to walk in the ways that He commands us so that we may prosper as individuals, as a state, as a nation, and as a world. Let us pray. Direct, O Lord, we pray, the hearts of our leaders and legislators. And in your kindness, grant your servants this grace, that listening to your call and abiding in the love of you and of their neighbor, they may fulfill the whole of your commands and inspire us all to do the same. May their reading of legislation, their debate of its content and merit, and their decisions upon its enactment be driven by a long-term vision of true human virtue and fulfillment for all, calling us beyond what we are to the wonder of what we were created to be in your plan and purpose, thus opening the way to a true pursuit of happiness. We ask this in the name of Jesus Christ our Lord, who lives and reigns with you, O God our Father, in the communion of the Holy Spirit, one God forever and ever. Amen.
Yeah. That's what it is. Yeah, I'll let you stay here for about 5 more minutes. And then we'll. Yeah, I'll let you out of the pen. We're gonna let this line die down, and then we'll. They always want to just shake hands with the chaplain at the desk. Just thank them for the message. Usually takes about 2 or 3 minutes to die down. We are now going to introduce our Doctor of the Day. We're now going to introduce our Doctor of the Day, and I'd like to call upon the Senator from the 51st to do so.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues and guests. We're honored to have Dr. Larry Anderson with us today. He earned a bachelor's degree from the University of Alabama at Birmingham. Dr. Anderson proudly served our U.S. Military troops over in Vietnam. He completed his Doctor of Osteopathic degree at the University Health Sciences College of Osteopathic Medicine in Kansas City, Missouri. He has a family medicine practice in Dawsonville, Georgia. He is an associate professor of clinical medicine at the Georgia campus of the Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine. He is on the board of directors at the Good Shepherd Clinic in Dawsonville, Georgia. And he also serves as the chairman of the Board of Health in Dawson County. You guys please help me welcome our great Doctor of the Day, Dr. Larry Anderson.
Thank you.
Talk real close to that mic.
All right, thank you. It is my honor to be here. Those of you might recognize my face. This is my 27th appearance in front of this setting as Doctor of the Day. You guys have already put me to work. We've already sent one of yours to Grady, but he'll turn out fine. I didn't expect to work so soon. I see a lot of military here, and I'm very appreciative of them and of the military. With my service, my military GI Bill got me through college and halfway through medical school, and my state scholarship got me through the last 2 years, and I ended up repaying that by practicing for 5 years in a small underserved area, and I still work in an underserved area. I am with Northside Hospital for Forsyth and practice in Dawsonville, and fifth-generation physician. But what I would really like to do today is thank you for what you've done for the citizens of this state. You started recognizing about 25 years ago that we may be heading towards an opioid crisis. You gave a resolution of recognition and appreciation to a company that makes an analgesic called Talwin when they added naloxone to it so that this drug cannot be abused. The second was when you made naloxone available without prescription, and now our first responders, EMTs, police, fire, have access to this, and it actually saved lives within the first week of it being enacted. And you gave us a great tool to help our patients with the prescription drug monitoring program. So now that we can look back 1 or 2 years and see all the controlled substances that new and established patients have. It is my honor to serve this. I'm very appreciative of this body. We do have an aid station on the second floor. Please take advantage of it, and thank you for your service.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. If I could get everybody's attention, please. Everybody's attention. It is my honor to be able to have with me today a great friend of mine. And if you've ever traveled through the 9th Congressional District and have shown up at a barbecue or a political event or anything in between it for the community, you have run into Bill Coakley at some point. He is the district director for Congressman Doug Collins, and it is my honor to have him here with me today. And has been a great friend and a big part of my personal story. And I'd like to read a proclamation, if that's okay, in honor of Bill Coakley. As an outstanding citizen of Georgia, in grateful acknowledgement of his unwavering leadership and dedication in service, of the United States of America and the state of Georgia. It is with the most sincere thanks that I commend him for his service to the United States Air Force, where he retired as Senior Master Sergeant, and for his service to Georgia as part of Congressman Doug Collins' district staff. Whereas he is a loving husband to Gail, devoted father to Valerie, Shane, and Philip, grandfather to Donovan, Carson, Kendall, and Jordan, and an adoring great-grandfather to Sophia. Whereas his devotion to the Lord is without question, and he serves his local community by singing in the church choir. I offer this commendation for his exceptional leadership and for his exemplary service to the citizens of the great state of Georgia. Please help welcome and thank Bill Coakley for his service.
To say I'm stunned is an understatement. Lieutenant Governor, thank you very much. Thank you to all of the senators who represent the people in the 9th District and all of you who represent the people of the state of Georgia. Thank you very much.
We have some extremely special guests with us today that we would like to recognize. Mr. Secretary, will you read the resolution?
Senate Resolution 221 by Senator Thompson of the 14th and others, a resolution recognizing March 28, 2019 as National Guard Day at the State Capitol for other purposes, whereas the Georgia Department of Defense, headquartered at the Clay National Guard Center in Marietta, Georgia, includes the Georgia Army National Guard, the Georgia Air National Guard, and the Georgia State Defense Force. It provides combat-ready military forces to combatant commanders, and upon the order of the governor, provides personnel to support civilian authorities when responding to natural or man-made disasters. And whereas the Georgia National Guard operates one of the most robust and successful youth challenge programs with campuses at Fort Stewart, Fort Gordon, and Milledgeville, where more than 16,500 high school dropouts have graduated and have been given opportunities to receive a high school diploma or general educational development diploma. Now therefore be resolved by the Senate that the members of this body commend the Georgia Department of Defense for their selfless service to their country, recognize the outstanding work by Georgia's Youth Challenge program in helping young men and women secure a lasting future, and recognize March 28, 2019 as National Guard Day at the State Capitol. That concludes the order.
Is there objection to adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. It is a great honor to recognize the senator from the 14th to introduce our special guest today.
Thank you, Governor. What an awesome day it is today. Not only look out amongst my colleagues, but look up in the gallery and see all the men and women that have served or currently serve in the National Guard. And then behind me here, not only am I joined from center to center to center that have served in the military, but we have great men and women behind me that are currently leading our state. As many of you know, the National Guard is very important to us in the state of Georgia. We've got a resolution that's going to be read, but also just take note. The Georgia National Guard has deployed nearly 4,000 soldiers and airmen to Afghanistan and Kuwait, Iraq, Guantanamo Bay, Jordan, the country of Georgia, Argentina, Germany, the southwest border of the United States, and throughout the entire geographical command center. The Georgia Youth Challenge Academy is another avenue the National Guard seeks to continue our state's path of success by targeting at-risk students and teaching them how to be productive citizens. Today, I'd like to recognize March 28th as a National Guard Day at the State Capitol. I'd like you to join me as we recognize everyone. If you're in a gallery, please stand. We'd like to recognize you, and then I'm going to have the general come and speak. As many of you know, General Girard has been redeployed over into Afghanistan and may wind up in D.C. at some point. And now we have Major General Tom Carden as Georgia's 43rd Adjutant General. General, will you speak, please?
Good morning, Lieutenant Governor Duncan, Senator Thompson, distinguished members of the Senate. It's an honor to represent the 15,000 members of the Georgia National Guard. This includes the Georgia Army National Guard that's led by Brigadier General Randall Simmons behind me, the Georgia Air National Guard that's led by Brigadier General Tom Grabowski, and the Georgia State Defense Force led by Brigadier General Tom Blackstock. Also on the podium with me today is Command Sergeant Major Roy Marchant. He's our senior enlisted leader. We also have 650, a little bit more than that, in state employees and 208 federal employees. We're all committed to our important missions at home and abroad. In the last year, we've deployed more than 2,600 Army National Guard soldiers and over 600 airmen around the globe to protect your freedom. As the state began to recover from Hurricane Michael, your Georgia National Guard deployed over 900 members of the Army and Air National Guard, along with our state defense force, to help our communities in need. We remain globally engaged, not only in the war fight, but in our state partnerships with the Republic of Georgia and the country of Argentina. Thanks to your support and leadership, we'll soon graduate our 17,000th Youth Challenge cadet. Our campuses at Fort Stewart, Fort Gordon, and Milledgeville continue to provide a much-needed second chance to men and women in our communities that need it. In addition, our new Job Challenge program will soon graduate its more than 350th student since beginning operations in 2015. We have members in every county in this state, and we constitute more than $917 million in economic impact. But none of this would be possible without our families and employers. We've invited some representatives to be here in the chamber gallery, and I just ask that you stand and we'll applaud for you at the end. Representing our families, we have Miss Diana Haynes, mother of First Lieutenant Chris Haynes, who serves with our 48th Brigade Combat Team. The family of Sergeant Major Ray Kinney, who serves also in our 48th Infantry Brigade Combat Team. The family of Master Sergeant David Creamer, who also serves in the 48th Infantry Brigade Combat Team, along with the family of Major John Purtle, who serves with our 201st Regional Support Group. Representing our employers today, we have Miss Linda Boyd. She's the principal of Twin Rivers Middle School in Gwinnett County and longtime employer of our Command Sergeant Major Roy Marchant, who's up here with me today. Mr. Clayton Steele, he's a senior military talent recruiter for Powerhouse Remodeling Group. And we have Miss Deb Veal Hoover, who's a senior talent acquisition officer with Waffle House. We have Jermaine Moten, he is the owner of Skylar Security. And we have Kim Walden, Senior Talent Acquisition Officer for AgPro, the largest John Deere dealer in North America. We have Mr. Jermaine Brown, the Deputy Regional Director of the General Services Administration. Please give them a round of applause for their sacrifice and support. In closing, I'd like to thank you all for your leadership. We depend on you as our elected leaders to set the policy, set the laws, and set the example. And we're grateful to be in this chamber with you today. And I want to personally thank you for what you do for our state. We're honored to serve you. We're honored to serve the state of Georgia. And we're honored to serve this great nation. God bless you all, and thank you very much.
We're now moving on to personal privilege, points of personal privilege. I'd like to recognize a senator from the 56th. Quick, just before you take the well, quick reminder, the rules provide that for today, day 38, there's 3 minutes limit for points of personal privilege. And due to the busy schedule we've got today and the robust calendar, we're going to stick to the 3 minutes, just as a quick reminder. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. I am just thrilled today to have with me Miss Georgia USA 2019. Katarina Rose Meisel lives in my district, and I'm so proud to represent her. She's studying accounting at Kennesaw State University. Next year, when she graduates, she's going to continue with her master's to pursue her CPA. At the age of 18, she started her very own business, Katarina Cosmetics. She's an ambassador for Kaiva, an organization that helps crowdfund loans to underserved communities to help them start their own businesses. She's passionate about helping women and children escape from human trafficking, domestic abuse, and homelessness. She volunteers and donates money earned from her cosmetic companies to help this cause. We're so very proud of her. If you please join me in recognizing her extraordinary efforts. All right, come on over to the
The chair would like to take a point of personal privilege, a personal point of privilege here, and I'd like to recognize my mom and dad who've joined us over here today, Jeff Sr. and Carol Duncan, and my sister's son, Austin Ambergy. I have dragged my poor parents across baseball fields all across this country and now to the campaign field, and if we added up the cumulative number of hours that they've watched my kids and picked them up from school to make this whole thing possible. So I just want to say thank you all so much for all that you do. Thank you. Chair recognizes the senator from the 39th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I rise today to congratulate the Westlake girls basketball team. The team finished the season undefeated with a record of 30-0. The team defeated Collins Hills, not sure whose district that's in the state championship game, the first undefeated season in Westlake history and in Fulton County girls basketball. 7A girls back-to-back state champions for 2018 and 2018, and Region 2 7A champions for the third year in a row, 2017, 2018, and 2019, the first time three-peat regional champs in school history. And with us today, we have some members of the team. If the team members would stand up, or they might be headed down to the gallery. They already went down. Oh, here they are. So Senator James and I have the privilege of sharing students. The school is actually in her district, but we share the students, and we couldn't be more proud of you today. I had the honor of going down to their high school last year to congratulate them in person, and I'm glad that you ladies were able to come down with us, and we can congratulate you here at the state capitol. Thank you, and welcome today, and again, congratulations on your success.
Chair would like to recognize the senator from the 35th for a point of personal privilege.
Wow, thank you, Mr. President. You know, in church, when I meet real ministers, I'm reminded of the scripture about many are called, but few are chosen. We have one that was called and chosen to be a true public servant leader, driven by a spirit of public service. Keith Gamage is the Solicitor General for Fulton County. Solicitor General Gamage believes the most important role of a prosecutor is to truly seek justice, which often means finding alternatives to incarceration, such as using the law to encourage education and job skills. Mr. Gamage has been recognized for his work in reducing the school-to-prison pipeline and has been a trailblazer in working to reduce domestic violence, elder abuse, and high school dropouts. And prior to taking office, Mr. Gamage served for several years as a Chief Assistant Solicitor General, first in command under the elected Solicitor General in a major metropolitan Atlanta county. Solicitor General Gamage is a proven leader who has maintained an active caseload and has achieved greater than 90% conviction rate over the course of his career as a prosecutor. Prior to becoming a prosecutor, Mr. Gamage served as the Assistant Public Defender in Fulton County, where he zealously protected the constitutional rights of thousands of Georgians. Excelling as both a defense attorney and prosecutor has afforded Mr. Gamage a unique perspective into criminal justice reform and forged his approach to smart, fair, and restorative justice, a rally calling in his 2016 victory. Solicitor General Gamage is a native of Atlanta and graduated from Woodland High School, now known as Tri-Cities High School. Mr. Gamage earned both his undergraduate and law degree from Southern University in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. We are proud to present to him a state resolution number 314 for your outstanding achievements. You know, some people go the extra mile. You go to extra thousands of miles. And he's joined by his family, Dr. Shauna Gamage and Keith Jr., you can come a little closer, and Deputy Solicitor General Kenya Johnson. Thank you very much. Thank you. And it is my honor to present you with this resolution. Thank you very much. Thank you. And thank you for all that you do and all the expungements. Thank you. I'm leaving.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 19th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Senate, I point you to an item that was left on your desk. Down in my area, in the Senator of the 4th area, every year there is an annual Law Enforcement Appreciation Dinner. It's done again this year on April the 18th. It's done at Wayne Dasher's Pond House. There are thousands of people who join us. All of you are welcome to come join us, including the senator from the 43rd, who I see. Senator from the 43rd, I have an extra bedroom. My wife and I would love to host you if you'd like to spend the night with us that night. So, but please feel free to come join us again April 18th. That'll give you a few days to wind down after session and then make it down to South Georgia, enjoy some good cooking and some hometown quality people. Thank you so much, Mr. President. I yield the well.
Did you say you only have one spare bedroom? Chair recognizes Senator from the 44th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Colleagues, I rise this morning to recognize one of our leaders in the community, Dr. Joyce J Dorsey, who has worked assiduously as the Fulton Atlanta Community Action Authority's leader and is responsible for the day-to-day management of the entire organization. She has been the president and CEO since FACAA's inception in 1991. Dr. Dorsey attributes her success at the helm of this organization to the dedicated board members of FACAA who allowed her to grow, along with her deeply committed staff, all of whom she works closely. Deeply committed to improving the lives of Atlanta's low-income community, she works with a staff of advocates and community leaders who work face-to-face with the grassroots and public leaders to make the mission of the agency a reality. Her staff works diligently with her to provide services that are relevant to the needs of the people of the Fulton Atlanta Community Action Authority. SIRS. The organization receives input from the community annually with surveys and responses that give the staff information about the programs that are best suited to help them to emerge from economic despair. Advocate, administrator, public speaker, and inspirational leader, Dr. Dorsey demonstrates her commitment to the needs of the low-income citizens of Atlanta and Fulton County on all levels of government, civic affairs, ecumenical relations, and media awareness of their needs and aspirations. Dr. Dorsey serves on the board of directors for several nonprofit organizations, including the regional and state community action associations that speak up on behalf of the voiceless. She's a voice for those without a voice, but a motivating teacher for those seeking ways to be heard. We are so honored today to recognize you, Dr. Joyce Dorsey, and this is Senate Resolution 444 by by the Senator of the 35th, and signed by the President of the Senate. Thank you so much for your commitment. Let's give Dr. Joyce Dorsey a big hand.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 29th for our final point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. Fellow senators, I stand before you today to recognize the most powerful female I've ever known in my life. Today's her birthday, March 28, 1942. She was born in Columbus, Georgia, grew into a strong woman with a quick wit and a sharp tongue. She gave birth to a daughter, a son, and a younger daughter. She raised them to go to church, speak their own mind. She raised them to love Democrats, Republicans, blacks, whites, browns, people who are gay, people who are straight, people who live different lifestyles than she did. She raised her children by herself. She worked at a manufacturing company on third shift to help pay for her children's lifestyle. And during the daytime when they were at school, she worked approximately 20 hours a week at a fast food restaurant. She disciplined her children. She hugged her children. She loved her children. And in 2007, she was taken from her children. I want to say happy birthday to my mother, Elizabeth Cobb Robertson. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. You have a consent calendar of privileged resolutions before you. Does any senator wish to remove a resolution from the consent calendar? Is there objection to adoption of the resolutions on the consent calendar? The chair hears none. The resolutions on the consent calendar are adopted. Are there any motions to withdraw and commit? You have a consent calendar of local bills before you. Mr. Secretary, are there any objections filed to the bill on the local consent calendar?
Mr. President, there are no objections filed.
Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the Committee on the State and Local Government Operations, which is favorable to the passage of the bills on the local consent calendar? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Chair recognizes, for what purpose does the senator from the 17th rise?
Mr. President, I ask for unanimous consent to be excused from voting on House Bills 612 and 614 pursuant to Senate Rule 5-1.8D.
The senator from the 17th has asked for unanimous consent to be excused from HB 612 and HB 614. Is there objection? Hearing no objection, the senator is excused. The question now is on the passage of the bills on the local consent calendar. All those in favor will vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bills on the local consent calendar, the yeas are 49, the nays are 1. These bills, having received the requisite constitutional majority, are therefore passed. Chair recognizes the majority leader for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the following bills be engrossed: HB 446, HB 314, HB 321, HB 527, and HB 266.
The majority leader has moved that the following bills and resolutions be engrossed: HB 446, 321, House Bill 266, House Bill 314, House Bill 527. Will the Secretary read the captions?
House Bill 446 by President Knight of the 130th and others. A bill will be titled enactment Code Section 48.740.36 of the OCGA relating to income tax credits for timber producers incurring losses from Hurricane Michael and for other purposes. Mr. President, House Bill 314 by President Stevens of the 164th and others. A bill will be titled enactment Chapter 7, Title 52 of the OCGA relating to registration, operation, and sale of watercraft so as to provide for the titling of certain vessels and for other purposes. House Bill 321 by President Law of the 122nd and others. A bill will be titled enactment Article 6C of Chapter 8 of Title 31 of the OCGA relating to the hospital Medicaid financing program and for other purposes. House Bill 527 by President Dickey of the 140th and others. A bill will be titled enactment Code Section 22-161 of the OCGA relating to quality basic education formulas so as to change program weights for funding purposes. And House Bill 266 by Representative Window Order of the 119th and others. A bill will be titled enactment Code Section 48.727 of the OCGA relating to computation of taxable net income so as to revise the deduction from income for contributions to savings trust accounts and for other purposes. Mr. President, that concludes the order.
The majority leader has moved that House Bill 446, House Bill 321, House Bill 266, House Bill 314, House Bill 527 be engrossed. Is there objection? There's objection. Would you like to speak to your motion? He waves. Would you like to speak to the objection? He waves. All those in favor of the motion will vote yea. Opposed, nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. Chair recognizes, for what purpose the senator from the 41st rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. President, is it not true that if we vote to engross these bills, we'll be taking about 20% of the bills today and not be able to perfect them or improve them for the citizens of Georgia?
I'm sure the senator believes of what he speaks. All right, we're going to move on to the rules calendar. Forgot one important piece of business. The yeas are 30, the nays are 20. This motion has received the necessary votes and passes. We are now moving on to the rules calendar. Mr. Secretary, will you read the caption of House Bill 332?
House Bill 332 by Representative Meeks of the 178th and others. A bill will be titled enactment Article 2 of Chapter 8 of Title 2 of the OCGA relating to agricultural commodity commissions, generally so as to revise provisions relating to service of the Commissioner of Agriculture and the President of the Georgia Farm Bureau Federation as ex officio members and for other purposes. Mr. President, that concludes the order.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 7th to speak to House Bill 332.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 332 simply allows the Commissioner of Agriculture to designate an ex officio to sit in his place on the Ag Commodity Commissions. If there are no questions, I yield the will.
That's a good sign of how quick we're going to go today. Are there any questions? Any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? Are there any objections? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass? The questions on the passage of the bill. All those in favor will vote yea. Opposed, nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 54, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Secretary, can you read the caption of House Bill 551?
House Bill 551 by President Hill III and others, a bill to be titled enacted in Chapter 13 and Title 16 of the OCGA relating to controlled substances so as to provide for legislative findings, provide a definition, provide for the identification of standard level of kratom alkaloids and establish recommended dosages, provide for the prohibition of access to kratom to persons under 18 years of age, provide for packaging, labeling requirements, and for other purposes. Amendment 1 by Senator Moles, the 53rd, and others offers the following amendment. Amendment 1 to House Bill 551 by on line 36 to take effect upon signature of the governor. And Mr. President, that concludes the order.
Chair would like to recognize our highly sought after, at least for a few more hours, Rules Chairman from the 53rd to speak to House Bill 551 and the amendment.
The President knows what he speaks. Thank you, Mr. President. I'm here about House Bill 551. I want to thank all of our medical professional people here in this chamber for their work on this, and thank you, Senator, from the first. Is there anybody in here who knows what kratom is? Not many. I've never heard of this word until a couple of years ago. And some medical people and some coroners think that this is part of their autopsy performance when they figure out why somebody dies. But then again, there are some other studies that say it has nothing to do with that. So there are a lot of unknown for this herbal substance that some claim helps them improve their life, takes them off opioids and other things that gives them a stable life, and we have had testimonies on both sides of this issue. So this bill simply makes sure that you have to be of age, 18 years of older, have to show an ID, and also that the manufacturers have to put the ingredients on the package. That's all it does. And also the amendment states it as being effective as when the governor signs the bill. And that is all it does, Mr. President. I'll be glad to answer any questions, or I'll yield the way.
Nobody has questions for the esteemed Rules Chairman.
Thank you. I appreciate you voting on this bill, and have a nice day.
Any other senators wish to speak to the amendment? Chair recognizes the senator from the 32nd.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm here to speak in favor of the amendment, but also in favor of the bill. Kratom needs more study, and there are concerns about its role in our overall substance conversation. It's very important that people know what's in this drug and that we protect our children. And for that reason, I'm voting yes on the bill. Thank you.
All right, let's take up amendment number 1. The question is on the adoption of amendment number 1. Is there objection to the adoption of the amendment? Chair hears none, and the floor amendment is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? Are there any objections? The chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass as amended? The question is on the passage of the bill as amended. All those in favor will vote yea. Opposed, nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 50, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed as amended. Ms. Secretary, can you please read the caption of House Bill 446?
House Bill 446 by Representative Knight of the 130th and others, a bill be titled and acted in Code Section 48.740.36 of the OCGA, relating to income tax credits for timber producers incurring losses from Hurricane Michael, so as to clarify that certain income tax credits that have been transferred shall not be refundable to the transferee and shall not be eligible for transfer and for other purposes. Mr. President, Senate Committee on Rules offers the following substitute to House Bill 446. The bill be titled and acted in Code Section 48.740.36 of the OCGA, relating to income tax credit for timber producers incurring losses from Hurricane Michael, so as to revise the conditions under which such tax credits for timber are earned and for other purposes. Mr. President, that concludes the order.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 11th to speak to House Bill 446.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 446 is a minor adjustment to the timber tax credit that we passed during the special session. It doesn't increase the tax credit, so there's no change in the fiscal impact to the state, but it does clarify who would be eligible and clarifies that the credit is not transferable from the refund standpoint. Appreciate your support and be glad to answer any questions.
You have no questions, Senator. Any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Questions on the adoption of the committee's substitute. Is there objection to adoption of the committee's substitute? Chair hears none, and the committee's substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? Are there any objections? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass by substitute? Questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor will vote yea. Opposed, nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 52, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Ms. Secretary, can you please read the caption of House Bill 491?
House Bill 491 by Resident Taylor and the 73rd and others. The bill will be titled Act Amendment Chapter 13 and Title 33 of the OCGA relating to insurance holding company systems as to update the regulation of insurance company holding systems, provide for definition, to provide the commissioner with new supervisory authority, to provide for enforcement authority, to provide for confidentiality, and for other purposes. Mr. President, that concludes the order.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 20th to speak to House Bill 491.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 491 is another one of our National Association of Insurance Commissioners accreditation bills to keep us in compliance and maintain our accreditation. It's a model act, which we've got a multi-state compact. As long as we stay accredited, other states recognize our insurance commissioner as the authority without looking at individual insurance company stuff that he regulates. So this deals with group-wide, it names the state of Georgia as a group-wide supervisor for internationally active insurance group. Just makes it clear that the Georgia Insurance Commissioner is the regulator of that. It deals with large groups that have total assets of at least $50 billion or revenue or premiums of at least $10 billion. Again, it's the NAIC Model Act, and I ask for your favorable consideration. I yield the well.
Senator has yielded the well. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Chair hears none. The previous question's ordered. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? Are there any objections? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass? The question's on the passage of the bill. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 52, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption of House Bill 310?
House Bill 310 by Representative Morris, 156. The bill will be titled Act Amendment Code Section 3324, 59.10 of the OCGA, relating to insurance coverage for autism, so as to move the annual due date that the Department of Insurance must submit an autism coverage report to the General Assembly from January 15th to June 15th and for other purposes. Mr. President, that concludes the order.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 25th to speak to House Bill 310.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be brief. House Bill 310, all it does is moves a reporting form from January 15th to June 15th pertaining to autism coverage, which puts it in line more with what our fiscal year end is, and gives us a better picture on what exactly it will cost us as far as our budget is concerned. If there's no questions, Mr. President, I will yield the well.
I didn't get a promotion.
I didn't. Yeah.
You have no questions.
Thank you.
Any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there objection or agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? Are there any objections? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass? The question is on the passage of the bill. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 53, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Ms. Secretary, please read the caption of House Bill 233.
House Bill 233 by Resident Knight of the 130th and others. A bill will be titled enactment Article 6 of Chapter 4, Title 26 of the OCGA relating to pharmacies, so as to enact the Pharmacy Anti-Steering and Transparency Act, provide for legislative findings, provide for definitions, prohibit pharmacies from engaging in certain practices to require pharmacies to file an annual disclosure statement, to provide for violation, to provide for limited liability, to provide for statutory construction and for other purposes. Mr. President, Senate Health and Human Services Committee offers the following substitute to House Bill 233. Bill will be titled enactment Article 6 of Chapter 4, Title 26 of the OCGA relating to pharmacies, so as to enact the Pharmacy Anti-Steering and Transparency Act, provide for legislative findings, provide for definitions, prohibit pharmacies from engaging in certain practices, require pharmacies to file an annual disclosure statement, provide for violations and for other purposes. Mr. President, that concludes the order.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 11th to speak to House Bill 233.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 233 is a bill to give patients choice for where they get their medications. It prohibits pharmacies owned by PBM and affiliates from posting patient information. It prohibits pharmacies from receiving self-referrals and requires pharmacies to disclose their affiliations to the pharmacy board. This is a bill that will definitely help your local pharmacies to compete in this competitive pharmaceutical market. I appreciate your support and be glad to answer any questions, Mr. President.
You have no questions. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Chair hears none. The question's on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute? Chair hears none, and the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? Are there any objections? Chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass by substitute? The question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor will vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 53, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption of House Bill 228?
House Bill 228 by Resident Welch of the 110th and others. The bill will be titled enactment Article 3 of Title 19 of the OCGA relating to marriage generally, so as to change the minimum age of marriage of a child from 16 to 17 years of age and require any person who is 17 years of age to have been emancipated and for other purposes. Mr. President, Senate Committee on Judiciary offers the following substitute to House Bill 228. Bill will be titled enactment Chapter 3 of Title 19 of the OCGA relating to marriage generally, so as to change the minimum age of marriage of a child from 16 to 17 years of age to require any person who is 17 years of age to have been emancipated, to prevent forced or coerced marriages involving children, to require documentary proof of emancipation, completion of premarital education, and certificate of completion, and certain other conditions for the issuance of a marriage license for any person who is 17 years of age, to require proof of age for the issuance of a marriage license, to require the Department of Public Health to prepare and distribute a fact sheet concerning certain information about marriage and available resources for persons who are victims of certain crimes and for other purposes. Mr. President, that concludes the order.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 18th to speak to House Bill 228.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning, colleagues. I bring to you House Bill 228. This is an opportunity for us to vote to end child marriages in Georgia at the age of 16. So what is the problem? Well, the problem is approximately 10,000 children under the age of 18 were married in Georgia between 2000 and 2015. This unfortunately ranks Georgia among the states with the highest numbers in the country. Most children were married to adult spouses, many of whom were significantly older than the child bride. Current law sets a minimum age in Georgia at 16 with consent from the parents or guardians, but does not go far enough to protect vulnerable children. Abusive or unfit parents can easily sign off on a child's marriage to a predator, effectively a no questions asked sort of policy. Child marriages have been used to cover up forced marriages, rape, child abuse, sexual child abuse, and human trafficking. Research also shows that girls who marry underage face greater vulnerability to sexual and domestic violence, increased medical and mental health problems, increased high school dropout rates, and a greater risk of future poverty, and up to an 80% divorce rate. Children of this age who marry face an 80% divorce rate. HB 228 aims to prevent forced marriages of children. It also seeks to mitigate the steep risks posed to girls' health, safety, and welfare by marrying before 18, and ensure that marriage licenses are only issued to legal adults with legal and practical ability to protect themselves. Among the other safeguards found in the bill would be it would require proof of age in all the cases. It raises the minimum age to 17 and requires the other party to marry with a minor be no more than 4 years older at the age of 17. It also requires that a minor have been emancipated, otherwise to have been declared a legal adult by a juvenile court after a hearing to determine that the minor is mature and self-sufficient. It also ensures an attorney is appointed. It requires the court to examine additional evidence about the intended marriage or spouses and make sure this is in the minor's best interest. It also has a short instituted waiting period between the emancipation order and the license. Together, these safeguards will help ensure that a minor is marrying, that she's making a decision for herself rather than being coerced. This bill comes to you with strong bipartisan support from the House, 158 to 13. There are countless numbers of women's organizations and child advocacy groups who, to my knowledge, have all come out in favor of this legislation. This also puts us consistent with a national movement to end child marriages and solve the problems that I've already addressed. Mr. President, if there are no questions, I'll be happy to yield the well.
You have a question. Chair recognizes the senator from the 45th for a question.
Would the senator yield?
To my good friend from Gwinnett, I'll be happy to.
Senator, is it not true in House Bill 228 that the objective of child brides is also potentially directly related to the issue of child sex trafficking? Is that not true?
It is absolutely true, Senator. I appreciate that question, and with all the work you've done for that sector of our society, few people, if anybody in this chamber, can speak more directly to that than you, Senator. Thank you for that.
Would you further yield?
I do.
Is it not true also, when you were naming those women's organizations that support this bill, that also all of those advocacy NGOs that support the issue of human bondage and human trafficking also support this bill? Is that not true?
It is absolutely true, Senator, and thank you again for that question.
You have no more questions.
Thank you, Mr. President. I urge your strong support for 228. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 48th to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise today to speak in support of this bill. The senator from the 18th has brought forth, and to tell you that indeed this will help law enforcement and prosecutors go after child sex trafficking. When I was a prosecutor, it was a problem. The age of the state law that was provided at that time, as well as the laws around child marriages and forced marriage. This bill will protect vulnerable children, and I commend everyone for working on this, and I appreciate the bipartisan support and the work of all the advocates and law enforcement who fight this fight every day on behalf of our citizens. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
There are no more questions, and anyone else any senators wish to speak for or against the bill? Chair hears none. The question's on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? Are there any objections? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass by substitute? The question's on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor will vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 51, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Ms. Secretary, can you please read the caption of House Bill 516?
House Bill 516 by Representative Smith of the 133rd and others. A bill will be titled Enactment Chapter 15 to Title 43 of the OCGA, relating to professional engineers and land surveyors, so as to provide for the profession of professional structural engineer, to provide for definitions, to provide for continuing education requirements, to provide for unlawful practices, to provide for the issuance of certificates of registration for such professionals, to provide for registration by committee, to provide for certificates of registration, to provide for use of a seal, to provide for exceptions, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Regulated Industries and Utilities offers the following substitute to House Bill 516. A bill will be titled Enactment Chapter 15 and Title 43 of the OCGA, relating to professional engineers and land surveyors, so as to provide for the profession of professional structural engineer, to provide for definition, to provide for continuing education requirements, to provide for unlawful practices, to provide for the issuance of certificates of registration for such professionals, to provide for registration by committee, to provide for certificates of registration, to provide for use of a seal, to provide for exceptions, and for other purposes. Amendment 1 by Senator Beach of the 21st and others offers the following amendment. Amend the Senate Committee on Regulated Industries and Utilities substitute to House Bill 516 by deleting lines 1 and 2, inserting in lieu thereof the following to amend Title 43 of the OCGA relating to professions and businesses, to provide for the regulation of certain professions, to change certain professions relating to certain boxing, wrestling, and martial arts associations and federations, to revise the definition, to change the applicability of certain professions as to matches, contests, or exhibitions, to provide for the profession of professional, and for other purposes. Mr. President, that concludes the order.
Chair recognizes the senator from Ocilla to speak to House Bill 516.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen, the Senate, House Bill 516 changes, or adds, I should say, a new designation for engineers in our state, which would be a PESE, or Professional Engineer, Structural Engineer. And the reason for this change is because to become a structural engineer in our state, you have to take a different test that is more significant in nature than one for a regular professional engineer, and it takes more training. So it's a designation that a lot of other states already provide, 24 states to be exact, and just bringing our state in line with that designation. There is an amendment that is hitting your desk, and that amendment is friendly, offered by the senator from the 21st and the senator from the 55th, and I have no objection to the amendment. If there are no questions, Mr. President, I will yield the will.
You have a couple of questions. Chair recognizes our good friend from Gwinnett County for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Does the chairman yield?
I will yield.
Does this bill have fiscal impact?
It does not have a fiscal impact to my knowledge, no ma'am.
Okay, so do you further yield?
I will yield, yes, ma'am.
The administrative piece that's talked about in the bill, is that already in existence?
Yes, so there is a professional licensing board for engineers that is already in existence. So this would just be under that board.
Okay,
that's
great.
already there or
Thank
already
you, sir.
established. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
You have one more question. My apologies. Chair recognizes our friend from the 31st.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator, do you yield?
I will yield.
I apologize for not asking you this earlier. It just occurred to me. So currently licensed professional engineers, would they be grandfathered in under this, or does this create a new requirement for those who already are able to do this?
It is my understanding that those that already have the designation to do this will have an ability to apply to the board to get the designation added to their license. They will not have to go through a new process. They can just request the board add the SE designation to their license, and the board will have the ability to do that.
Thank you, Senator.
You have no more questions.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will yield the will.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 21st to speak to his amendment number 1.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be brief. We did a study committee over the summer on combat sports, and the senator from the 55th was very involved in this also, and we came up and worked with Commissioner Matt Woodruff from the Georgia Athletic Commission, and one of the goals of the committee was to encourage mixed combat sports and fighting, MMA fighting, to come to Georgia. Right now, most of that occurs in Las Vegas or California. This will allow the Georgia Athletic Commission to really go after this and have more of these events and entertainment here in the state of Georgia. With that, Mr. President, I'll answer any questions or I'll yield the will.
You have a question. Chair recognizes the senator from the 22nd for a question.
With the senator yield?
Yes.
Just a very quick question. Because actually, in a couple of weeks, a mixed martial art fight will be coming to Georgia. Would this in any way kind of impede those opportunities?
No, it'll enhance those opportunities, and it'll give the commissioner a lot more flexibility in this.
Okay, thank you very much.
You have no more questions.
Thank you. I would encourage your support of the amendment. Thank you.
Does any other senator wish to speak to the bill or the amendment? All right, let's take up amendment number 1. The question's on the adoption of amendment number 1. Is there objection to the adoption of the amendment? Chair hears none, and the floor amendment is adopted. The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute as amended. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute as amended? Chair hears none, and the committee substitute is adopted as amended. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? Are there any objections? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass by substitute? The question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 48, the nays are 1. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption of House Bill 91?
House Bill 91 by Representative Welch of the 110th and others, a bill be titled enacted in Chapter 7, Title 31 of the OCGA relating to regulation and construction of hospitals and other healthcare facilities, so as to allow the Georgia Bureau of Investigation and as authorized the Federal Bureau of Investigation to retain fingerprints when an agency or entity is participating in the Georgia Bureau of Investigation's program and for other purposes. Mr. President, that concludes the order.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 18th to speak to House Bill 91.
Good morning again, colleagues. We've got a little bit of morning time left. Thank you, Mr. President. I bring to you House Bill 91. This House bill comes to you at the request of the Department of Community Health. It's fairly simple and straightforward. Last year, legislation was passed out to broaden the coverage regarding criminal enforcement against elder abuse and those who engage in financial exploitation of the elderly. That legislation included a background check for healthcare facilities, including facilities that also care for adults. Other legislation that passed out regarding the retention of fingerprints and legislation that allowed the GBI to maintain those fingerprints of employees and license holders associated with nursing homes to enable them to run real-time background checks. There was a gap, though, in the legislation that was passed and between the two previous pieces of legislation, and the one that I have before you now, HB 91, simply allows for the fingerprints of employees and licensees of long-term health care facilities to be included in the database so as to allow for a real-time background check for individuals who are going to be caring for the elderly. Again, this bill comes to you with strong House support with a vote of 168 to 3, and I encourage your support for the bill.
You have questions. Chair recognizes the senator from the 44th for a question.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Does the senator yield?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Now, how long will these fingerprints be kept if the person no longer works at the facility?
Senator, I think there's a provision, Senator, for the, I'm looking for the exact line to tell you that. It's a short period of time, Senator. I'm looking for the actual exact time on that, and I don't have that at my fingertips. But Senator, OCGA 35333, subparagraph A19, which provides for the Georgia Crime Information Center, the GCIC, to remove fingerprints obtained pursuant to subparagraph F of paragraph 1 of this subsection within 10 days of being notified that the individual whose fingerprints were retained under such program is no longer needed.
Needed. Okay. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for the question.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 10th for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would the senator yield?
I do.
Senator, I guess I was looking through the legislation trying to find it, but I didn't see if these fingerprints could be used for any other purposes other than mentioned in this legislation. Can you expand on that, please?
Senator, I think the only purpose it can be used is under the database and for the purpose for which the information is entered into the database. This connects up and fills the gap from the previous two pieces of legislation from last year. My understanding is that it can only be used for purposes of checking background checks on those that are employees or licensees at healthcare facilities and elder care facilities, so that those that are around our elder people, their employers can do a real-time background check to determine if there's a prior criminal history or some reason they should not be around the elderly of our state.
Senator Yield?
Yes, sir.
Senator, does that apply to nursing homes and those kind of facilities, elder living facilities where people work at those facilities as well?
Yes, that's my understanding it does, Senator.
Thank you, Senator.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Chair
Thank you, Mr.
recognizes. Senator, continue to yield.
Sure, I'll yield for one more.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 2nd.
Senator Yield?
I do.
Sir, how does this bill differ from what the GBR already do? Because they were already taking fingerprints. Am I correct?
That's correct, Senator. That's my understanding, but there's a gap with regard to the data that they can retain and how long they can retain it for these type employees and licensees. And this seeks to correct the gap that we had from last year so that the information can be obtained and retained for a longer period of time, so that when that employee goes to and the objective really is to avoid bad employees, bad actors who are taking care of elder Georgians who get fired at one location, perhaps for abusing elder Georgians, moving to another location to do the same type work in a different facility. But because of the gap and that information is not immediately available to the next prospective employer, the background check being done is not really thorough and is not effective. And so this will allow that.
Does the Senator further yield?
Yes, sir.
Could you describe for me long-term facilities?
I don't know that.
Are we talking about hospitals?
Senator, I don't know that long-term facility is a defined term for purposes of the statute, but we're talking about facilities that care for elder Georgians.
More specifically, are we talking about nursing homes?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Senator.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
Senator has yielded the well. The chair recognizes the senator from the 48th to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise because I didn't get to ask the questions that I wanted to ask about this bill, so I feel like I need to at least put them out for people to consider. I am a former federal prosecutor, as you guys all know, but I'm also very concerned about fingerprints and the use of fingerprints and how long they're going to be retained in the record. And I ask you to look at this bill for that purpose. I do believe that there needs to be a database where people can be run for criminal background checks to make sure that our elderly are protected. But at the same time, I do think that these nursing homes are entities that have the option to have the simultaneous running of the background check, need to have a duty to notify the database to take the person out when that person is not employed there any longer. I don't see a mechanism for that. I don't see a mechanism for the employee himself or herself to notify the database that they've left the employment. So therefore, I don't see in the law a responsibility for these fingerprints to ever be taken out. I may be missing something. That was one of the questions I was going to ask the good senator. But I do have that concern. So given that, I would ask you to look at that. I did not see answers to my questions. I will try to confer with the senator outside of the well, but I do believe in strong law enforcement and protecting the elderly, but at the same time, I also believe there is a balance and that the good people of Georgia need to have that balance and have their privacy protected when appropriate. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
Senator has yielded the well. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? Are there any objections? Chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass? The questions on the passage of the bill. All those in favor will vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 52, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. For what purpose does the senator from the 4th rise?
Mr. President, I move the Senate adopt the conference committee report on HB 31, and I'll take the well to explain.
Will the secretary read the caption?
Committee of Conference report on House Bill 31. The Committee of Conference on House Bill 31 recommends that both the House of Representatives and the Senate recede from their positions and that the attached Committee of Conference substitute to House Bill 31 be adopted, respectfully submitted by Representative England for the 116th and Senator Hill for the 4th and others. Conference Committee substitute to House Bill 31, a bill be titled an act to make and provide appropriations for the state fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2019 and ending June 30th, 2020, and for other purposes. Mr. President, that concludes the order.
Chair recognizes our hard-working Appropriations Chairman to speak to House Bill 31 and the motion.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, members of the Senate. Let me take one. This is going to be brief. It's not going to be a long presentation. So if you're going to your office, don't stay gone for about a minute. You'll miss lunch. Let me just take a minute, first of all, and tell you what's on your desk. Of course, you've got a copy of the budget. You've also got a differences report, which is basically the differences between the House and the Senate budget, and the last column is what happened on each one of those differences. That can help you kind of crystallize what the effect was. And then the last thing is a newly revised talking point that has in the beginning the settlement of the differences, and then in the back the things that we agreed on, and they're in numerical order and by number, so that you can look them up in the budget itself. So I think that's very useful, and certainly I appreciate the budget office in coming up with that as well. So I'm bringing you the conference committee report on the FY 2020 general budget. You know, when we presented the Senate version of the budget, it seems a long time ago, but it was just this past Monday, I spoke of the tremendous work of the Senate Budget and Evaluation Office. Well, let me say once again, it continues to be true that this budget in your hands, the budget on your desk, is a direct result of the dedication and hard work and long hours of hard work by the Budget Office. I'm going to cover today the changes that occurred in conference and the large items that I believe, additionally, the large items that I believe you're interested in, and then some agreements that were Senate interests as well. I just talked about the 3 documents that are on your desk, and I won't cover that again as well. Of course, the budget staff's here with us. I mentioned how the long hours, and if you've got a question that I don't address while on my presentation, you'll find one of them. They're here in the chamber. Melody is over here. We'd be happy to try to answer any questions that you might have now or after the presentation as well. I've also handed out, and I may not have completely covered everybody so far, but I've tried to give you a handout on what you wrote us about in a request and what the effect in the budget was, what we did in the budget to meet those requests. If I didn't hand you one, then I've still got it on my desk. I ran out of time, and we'll get it to you as well. This budget, again, continues to total $27.5 billion. And the thing I think it's important to remember is it represents a budget growth of only 2.3%. So I would say to you that this is a conservative budget and represents a revenue estimate by the governor that we should be able to meet this fiscal year. First, I'm going to list items that were funded in conference that were not in either one of the 2 budgets that passed. The conference committee, in concert with the governor, added 2 bond projects that you need to know about, including $13.7 million for the World Congress Center Savannah International Trade Center expansion and $6.5 million for the Lake Lanier Islands Authority development. Those were 2 projects that were added in conference. The fiscal year 2020 budget raises Georgia teacher salaries by $3,000 starting July 1. That's different from the governor's budget, it's different from the House budget, it's different from the Senate budget. It actually puts all the elements of the pay raise up front, and I think if you look at it that way, teachers come out a winner. So let me just say that one more time. Georgia's teachers will get a $3,000 raise and beginning July 1, and everybody is included not only teachers are included, but counselors and librarians and those certified individuals in the school system are also included as well. So I just want to compliment and thank the governor's office for their participation in this process of negotiating this raise package. It's a lot of money. It's some $530 million or so. It's the biggest item, probably the biggest single budget item we've ever had. But given the fact that we haven't raised teachers' salaries in a number of years, I think it's the right thing to do, and I salute both the House and the governor for participating in that. Thank you. That's a pretty good thing to do. The House and Senate, the next big item that's a change in conference is the House and the Senate removed the $100 million in bridge bonds. Now, this is the fourth year we've included $100 million in bridge bonds, and there's a little bit of a waiting list and backup of work, so I don't think this will cause any bridge that needed repair to not have it done this year. We've had 3 straight years. This was of $300 million total added to fix bridges all over the state. In its place, though, I think we've made a stab at something that's going to help us in economic development around the state. The House and the Senate fashioned a $35 million rail package that follows the DOT intermodal priority list and upgrades these rail lines to close to a Class 2 rating for state-owned short-line railroads. The Class 2 rating increases the speed at which these short-line railroads can run, and what it does that by repairing bridges, the things that slow down rail traffic, and also increases the weight that they can carry, that each car can carry, so it basically will speed up the delivery of cargo. That's tremendously important because there are short-line rail lines all over the state that the state owns. One of the most important ones is the one that goes across the state from the port towards the Kia plant. The Kia plant is beginning to do a lot of business with the port in Savannah, getting this rail lines speeded up. They do such a great job of handling cargo in an expeditious manner. This will be a tremendous help. So it's $35 million going to rail bonds. In item, a few other Senate initiatives, and I'm not going to take long to go over these. These are all Senate initiatives. I won't touch on those items that we agreed on. But in 5913 in behavioral health, we agreed to add $250,000 for Mercy Clinic. That was an item that many of you wrote about, the delivery of both mental health services and health services to indigents here in Atlanta. $250,000 was settled to satisfy that request. In item 7812 in the Department of Community Affairs, we funded $2 million for the Georgia Broadband Deployment Initiative. That refers to Senate Bill 402 that the senator from the 51st was responsible for last year, beginning this process of bringing broadband across our state. In item 130.1, the Senate and House agreed to begin a facilities grant program with $300,000 from the Georgia Council for the Arts that will help local communities to continue to develop their arts programs. And in item 135.9, we agreed to reconstitute the local visitor information grant program requiring a local match that will get local communities back into the tourism business and help us with our tourism business statewide. In item 144.7, we agreed to fund $100,000 for a 2-year pilot program for reading assistance programs for children with dyslexia per Senate Bill 48. In item 157.7, we transferred $1 million in funding from GOSA to provide additional high school counselors in Title I schools. That was a result of a request from a senator. In item 173.7, the House and the Senate, in cooperation with the governor's office, began preparations for the 2020 census, funding $1.5 million for a targeted statewide campaign to reach the hard-to-count population. In item 233.6, the conference committee agreed to fund a regional nature educational facility at Chattahoochee Nature Center with $300,000. Very exciting project. And funded $100,000 for construction of an entrance and trail build-out in Heard County operated by DNR. In item 248.6, the conference committee agreed to fund $600,000 for 3 satellite perinatal support sites in Jenkins, Randolph, and Wilcox counties. We appreciate the work of the senator from the 45th and her subcommittee. In item 287.8, the House and Senate agreed to an expansion of the UGA Medical School to increase the number of slots in the school with an appropriation of $1.8 million. And to help the Department of Revenue to meet the new challenges brought on by the expansion of businesses collecting sales tax, we funded 8 new auditors and 12 new revenue agents. These DOR employees who, once they're fully trained, will earn many times their salaries with collections. And in the Department of Transportation, we agreed to add $1,055,000 for the Airport Aid Program. The second section of your handout that I mentioned earlier lists highlights of other final positions which were agreed to by the House and the Senate. So you can look at the beginning of the handout and look at the things that were differences that we agreed upon in the end and what the amounts were. Then you can look in the back and pick out those items that were agreed upon, and there were a lot of those that were agreed upon all together. I went over the major categories of bonds this past Monday, and I broke them down for you by agency, so I'm not going to do that again. But what you need to know is that almost half of the projects that we put in the Senate version that were half funded, with the exception of one, all of those were funded. All of the projects that the House put in at half funding were all funded except for one. So between the two, we've basically funded almost all of the bond projects in the package. I mentioned the rail package earlier. It's at the rear of your bond package. The particular rail lines are listed at the back of the handout document for you as well. Fellow senators, I recommend this budget to you, and I would say that it is a document that addresses here in 2019 the needs of our state citizens and provides for the safety of our elderly and the education of our children and young adults. And I would highly recommend this budget conference report to you. Be glad to answer any questions if possible, Mr. President.
You have a couple of questions. The chair recognizes the senator from the 32nd.
Mr. Chairman, would you yield?
I yield.
Isn't it true that you have a gift for making complicated things simple and that you're always willing to listen?
Well, I know that y'all are certainly willing to listen and participate, and I appreciate that very much.
And would you further yield?
Certainly.
And would you also agree that your work and that of the entire budget office is much appreciated by this body?
I would certainly agree with that. Thank you so much.
Chair would like to echo those sentiments. Chair recognizes the minority leader. Oh, sorry. You have no more questions.
I urge your adoption, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Chair would like to recognize the minority leader to speak to the motion.
Mr. President, members of the Senate, I come down to commend the work of the Senator from the 4th, thank him for listening the concerns of our caucus and to each and every member of this body. You know, this bill, when it came to the Senate, lacked some funding for census education. You know, for every person that we don't count, we lose about $1,400. $1.5 million more is there to promote that, and some efforts in the library system have been done. We really appreciate him including that. As you know, for years we've been concerned about teachers' raises and pay, and the President and the Senator from the 4th certainly, and the Governor have been working on that this session, and we certainly applaud and thank them for that. Certainly there are things in this budget that members may not like or may disagree with, but we can agree that we've been listened to and that some positive things have been done for the citizens of Georgia in this budget. I commend to you, as I have before, that we need to continue to look at often neglected state employees and how they are treated by us, and make sure that in the future years that we try to address their concerns, as well as outside of all of the Medicaid discussions, there's more that we can do for the health of our Georgia citizens, and we need to keep that in our minds as we move forward in the future. But I really do thank the Senator from the 4th and the members of this body for a budget that does move the ball forward for our citizens of Georgia. Thank you.
The senator from the 4th has moved that the Senate adopt the conference committee report on House Bill 31. Is there objection? Oh, we actually have to do a recorded vote here. All those in favor of the motion by the senator from the 4th will vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the motion, the yeas are 53, the nays are 0. The motion has prevailed, and the Senate has adopted the conference committee report on House Bill 31. Thank you to the senator of the 4th and your entire team who's got us across the finish line. All right, here's our current posture. We're going to take a break for lunch. Lunch is ready. It's going to be served today down in the new break room for the secretary's office down there. And I would like the rules chairman to make a quick announcement, and then I'll follow up. Chair recognizes the senator from the 53rd.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just want to kind of let you know what's happening while the senator from the 49th figures out where the food is. But we're going to have lunch, and the entire Senate is invited. And then we'll have lunch for about 30 to 45 minutes, and we'll go to room 450 for the Rules Committee meeting. And then we're going to select only the best bills from the lower chamber to be on the floor. So please pay attention, and I think, did you tell us when we're coming back already?
Not yet.
Okay.
I'm saving
right.
that for last.
Thank you. And I'm not 100% sure, Mr. President, where the food is. I thought it would be in a little mez than a mez, so we're waiting to, huh?
I'll fill them in.
All right, good. Thank you.
Senator has yielded the well. All right, so lunch is going to be served in the new cafeteria area or break area for the Secretary of the Senate. We will reconvene 15 minutes after the rules meeting is over. So not knowing exactly what that timeline is, but history shows us that's going to be about a 2-hour meeting. And 15 minutes after the rules meeting closes, we will reconvene here in the Senate. The Senate stands adjourned. Recess. The Senate stands in recess. I almost sent us home. Freudian slip.